Hi, this is a video which is discussing Heidegger's concept of Angst. Angst is the German pronunciation, and there's a couple places where you can find Heidegger's concept of Angst. One is the essay "What is Metaphysics?" It can be found in Walter Kaufmann's anthologies of existentialism, as well as the grounding of no, it's the way back into the grounding of the ground of metaphysics. That one I have not read for a long time, so I don't really remember. But I have read recently the what is metaphysics, and that's where I'm getting this, as well as the primary place where I'm getting this discussion of angst is in this book, Being in Time, Design and Zeit. He discusses so much deep concepts of design in the book Being in Time. You could go on, writing explanations or discussing explanations or discussing concepts for a long time, and you would not, you wouldn't really have discussed it enough. I mean, there's a lot of deep stuff in here, and there's a lot of concepts, and those concepts are deep ones. So, but this is referring to angst. In this book, Being in Time, he discusses fear and angst. Fear is something that causes some sort of uneasy feeling. I can't remember if he said that this causes the self to free, if it causes the design to flee from itself or not. But there's fear, which is caused by something that the design can identify, and you can find it and you can pick it out. It's something that is most likely objectively present, or even more than that. There's that, and then there's angst. Heidegger states, this is a paraphrasing. Heidegger states in Being in Time that angst gives the feeling to design. It's a feeling that where there's a possibility of its destruction or annihilation. Now, angst is this sort of it's. He says in both what is metaphysics and Being in Time that it's something that causes a design to flee from itself, and it causes nothingness. And I mean, I could go further into. Maybe I've done a video on what is metaphysics, maybe not. But there's, I'm gonna have to do another discussion about that essay. But it causes design to flee from itself, and it's like the presence of nothingness. And the question, the big question here is, angst comes when the possibility of destruction of design is seen. And it's something that design cannot point out. It cannot identify. And angst comes from when design sees the possibility of its own destruction. Now, that is a concept that I would like to elaborate I would like to elaborate upon. The concept of design seeing the possibility of its own destruction. That is, and then it leads to these feelings of angst, this state of angst, which causes nothingness and the design to flee from itself. A book that is closely related to this would be this book. This is Towards Phenomenological Ethics by Werner Marx, The Ethos in the Life World. This is one of my favorite books ever. And this is mostly because it has a slight, it's phenomenological ethics. Now there are other authors who propose a phenomenological ethics such as Paul Ricoeur or there's others too, Nikolai Hartmann, as well as others. But this book is, I'm going to argue any phenomenological ethics only upon this. This is the foundation, I think, of any ethics. I think it should be. This should be the mere foundation of any kind of ethics. This is ethics given because of phenomenology of Husserl and Heidegger. Werner Marx deals with archives in Germany of Germany or Switzerland, one or the other. Archives of Husserl, and this is a phenomenologist who bases a lot of things very, very largely off of Heidegger, somewhat off of Husserl, and he also has a book about another book about non-metaphysical ethics, but this book is about non-metaphysical ethics, and not just about that either. It is also, it has a basis of virtue ethics, but it mostly resides upon ethics of emotion, or basically he uses the same word that Heidegger uses, the word attunement, and it's mostly the way that we can come towards compassion, or the comportment. He used the word comportment. The comportment toward one another can change towards empathy and compassion, which is based upon the man's recognizing of his own mortality. Now that, I think, is a concept that can connect into this idea of angst. Now, mortality is essentially, it's the opposite of immortality. Now, immortality is entailed by inability to be destroyed, but mortality is vulnerability, frailty, possibility of being destroyed, annihilated, perishable. So, the recognizing of mortality, Werner Marx says, can lead the person to changing the comportment and leading to a different mode of attunement towards having compassion and recognizing that I am the same as you, that we are both mortal. If I recognize my mortality, my comportment towards you will change, and my attunement, my mode of attunement will change, and I'll recognize mortality not only in myself but in you also, and this sort of compassion bond will form here. This is the emotional form of ethics that is in this book. That's why I really like it so much. But essentially, I want to connect this idea of recognizing your own mortality in Werner Marx's work with Heidegger's idea of angst, which is Dasein recognizing of the possibility of him being of its destruction. And I think that Heidegger and Marx and Husserl together, they're the three phenomenological and existential figures that could create a systematic ethics of virtue and emotion together. That is my opinion about that. That this idea of recognizing your own mortality, recognizing that you could be destroyed, could result in the fact that we all recognize that we're vulnerable, because the reason that most people don't have an ethical compartment of compassion is because they realize, they think that they do not have the possibility of being destroyed. But this recognition that design could be destroyed, which leads to angst in Heidegger's work, it could not only this whole idea of recognizing your own mortality. Heidegger says that it leads to angst, but we can at the very least infer that it leads to insecurity and recognizing that you're not exactly invulnerable, and then you have to do things to protect yourself, which could lead to comportments which are not involving compassion nor empathy, but this idea of a systematic ethics given Husserl, Werner Marx, and Martin Heidegger could lead to this idea of recognizing your own mortality or possibility of destruction, leading to this changing of comportment, changing of mode of attunement towards compassion, creating a certain bond that you are mortal, I am mortal, and we could both be destroyed. So why don't we help each other while we have the chance? So that's my essential point here, is that those three figures, Husserl, Heidegger, and Werner Marx, could lead to a systematic phenomenological ethics based on emotion and possibly virtue. And I think that is what phenomenologists should push for. They should try to create it, or try to formulate it at least, and possibly think about ways of application for it.